The night had claws. Thunder growled over the lonely highway as a storm drifted across the town of Willow Creek. Inside the rusty pine bar, the lights flickered, and the jukebox hummed a low country tune. Rain hammered against the windows, drowning the world outside in sheets of silver. But no one noticed the storm. Their eyes were locked on the tall, intimidating biker who had just stepped through the door. His leather jacket dripped water onto the wooden floor, his boots heavy, and his beard wild. People shrank away from him, whispering about the reputation of the Black Vipers, a ruthless biker gang known for trouble and chaos. And tonight, trouble walks straight up to the counter. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right, please like this video, comment below, share it with others, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that touch the heart. Her name was Lily Carter, the waitress who served every customer with a smile stitched out of pain she never showed. At 25, she had already lived through more storms than the sky could hold. Long sleeves covered her arms even in summer heat, and she moved with the quiet caution of someone who had learned survival before joy. She set a glass of water on the counter for the biker, something she did for everyone, but he sneered and shoved it aside. The glass rolled and shattered on the floor, and the entire bar fell silent. Lily calmly knelt to pick up the shards, but her fingers trembled. She hoped he'd just ignore her like most strangers did, but he didn't come for drinks or peace. He came to provoke fear. The biker leaned closer, his voice dripping with arrogance as he taunted her. He grabbed her wrist, forcing her up from the floor. The air thickened with tension. Customers glanced away, pretending they didn't see, afraid they might be the next target. Lily tried to pull back, but he was stronger, fueled by the power he held over a room that refused to defend her. Rain pounded louder, as if the storm itself protested his cruelty. The bartender took a hesitant step forward but froze, threatened by the glint of the biker's chain swinging lazily from his belt. The biker's grip traveled from her wrist to her shoulder, then to the fabric of her shirt. A wicked grin stretched beneath his beard. In an instant, soundless and swift, he tore her shirt open. Gasps erupted through the bar, but what they saw beneath the torn shirt wasn't what anyone expected. There, plastered across Lily's chest and shoulders, were faded bruises and fresh marks, scars of past violence she had been trying desperately to hide. But even more arresting was the battered firefighter badge hanging from a small chain around her neck, close to her heart, as if she clung to it for strength. The room froze in disbelief, but the biker froze for another reason, because etched into her skin was a large tattoo of a fire emblem with a number beneath it, Station 17. The number twitched a memory deep inside him like an old scar reopening, and his face drained of color. The bar watched, confused, as the biker staggered backward. But Lily knew exactly what had stunned him. She knew who he was, and he remembered her story. 3 years earlier, Lily had been a firefighter, one of the youngest women to ever join Station 17. She loved the job, the purpose in saving lives, and the family she found among her fellow firefighters. But one deadly night, a collapsing building left her trapped under burning beams. She shielded a terrified child from falling debris, saving the boy's life but losing the ability to return to duty. Fire stole her future, her muscles torn and bones shattered, leaving behind scars still healing and a heart still grieving. Her team honored her as a hero, calling her the angel in the flames. But while the world celebrated her bravery, she retreated into shadows, burdened by trauma and the memory of her own screams beneath crushing wreckage. Her life spiraled. Further, when her own fiancé, who had once promised to protect and cherish her, broke under the weight of responsibility. Instead of support, he delivered cruelty. Instead of love, he gave rage. He blamed her for the medical bills, for her scars, for the nightmares that haunted her. He shattered her spirit more violently than the fire ever had. And that's what brought her to Willow Creek. A quiet town, a simple bar, sleeves long enough to hide the truth. The biker, whose name was Mason Colt, stared at her with a terror that looked almost like regret. He recognized the station emblem, because he had served time in that same burning building. He had been the one trapped on the second floor, lungs choking on smoke, convinced he would die. The firefighter who dragged him out, coughing blood and barely conscious, was her. Lily, the woman he just humiliated, had once saved his life. The room held its breath as shock hardened into shame on Mason's face. Those who had witnessed the scene looked back and forth between them, waiting for someone to break the silence. Mason's fists clenched, anger now turned inward. All his aggression, all his dominance, shattered by the realization that he had just assaulted the very hero who pulled him from death. But Lily didn't speak. She simply gathered the torn pieces of her shirt and held them close to her chest, not out of embarrassment, but out of a quiet, unyielding strength. Her eyes locked with his, and for the first time since she met him, she wasn't afraid. The biker's knees threatened to buckle as memories surged, her fireproof suit, the sound of cracking beams, her determination as she said, "Hold on." He never knew her name then, but he never forgot her eyes. And now here they were again, but this time he was the danger, not the flames. Customers who had stayed silent now looked at Mason with disgust, but Lily, despite every reason to condemn him, took a slow breath. She didn't scream, she didn't run, she didn't crumble. Instead, she did something that shook Mason more than any fist ever could. She forgave him without a word. That simple act, a soft, steady gaze instead of hatred, struck him harder than any punch. Mason's chest tightened until he couldn't breathe. He stumbled back again, crashing into a bar stool, ashamed of the man he had become. He thought intimidation made him powerful, but now he saw weakness in what he mistook for strength. The bartender rushed to wrap a towel around Lily's shoulders, guiding her to a seat. The storm outside raged, lightning splitting the sky, as Mason slipped out of the bar like a shadow fleeing from light. Some customers cheered at his retreat, but Lily remained silent. She didn't seek celebration. She simply existed, wounded but resilient. However, the story didn't end there. The next morning, the Rusty Pine Bar opened quietly. Staff whispered about canceling their shifts, fearing Mason would return with his gang. The world often expects the worst from the broken. But Dawn had a different destiny written for this sinner. The door creaked open, and Mason walked in again, alone. He wasn't wearing his leather jacket, only a simple shirt that revealed tattoos from a troubled past. In his trembling hands he carried a small, folded firefighter jacket, the same kind worn by Station 17. Everyone tensed, afraid his presence meant danger, but his swollen eyes and slow steps told a different story. He approached Lily, who stood near the counter, arms crossed protectively. Mason stopped several feet away, unable to lift his gaze. He placed the jacket on the counter gently, as though it carried the weight of his conscience. When he finally looked up, tears tracked through his beard. He whispered an apology so raw and broken that the room felt it more than heard it. He confessed he had turned to violence because life had taught him fists faster than feelings. He admitted he never properly thanked the firefighter who saved his life, and that he never imagined he'd one day hurt her instead. Lily felt an old ache rise, not from her wounds, but from her empathy. She knew what trauma could twist a person into. She had seen strong people collapse when life hit too hard. She had lived that collapse herself, and though fear still tugged at her heart, she recognized something she never expected to see shining in the biker's eyes: genuine remorse. She took the jacket with a trembling hand and thanked him. It wasn't forgiveness granted instantly, nor trust restored in a moment, but it was a beginning. Mason asked if he could repay the kindness she once gave him by helping her rebuild what life had burned away. He promised protection instead of fear, support instead of harm, and over the next few weeks Mason proved his promise through actions, not words. He repaired the bar's broken chairs, helped Lily walk home when her injuries flared, made sure no drunk customer ever raised their voice at her again. The town slowly shifted its opinion, seeing the transformation of a man who once only knew destruction. Lily didn't save him just from fire that night years ago. She saved him again from becoming a monster he could no longer live with. He found a purpose in protecting the one person who showed him that mercy is stronger than any gang. And Lily found a newfound courage. The courage to believe that kindness, even after pain, could still exist in unexpected hearts. The stormy night that brought Mason into the bar had seemed like the worst moment of Lily's life, But sometimes life turns its deepest wounds into bridges. Sometimes people are placed in our path not to break us, but to change us. If this story has touched your heart in any way, please like the video, share it with others, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so more people can experience stories that remind us that redemption is real and hope is never out of reach. Before the ending, comment below, do you believe people can truly change if given a second chance? In time, Lily returned to the fire station, not to fight fires again, but to speak at training sessions, inspiring young firefighters with her courage. Mason attended every talk, quiet but proud, knowing that her strength guided him back from the edge. Their bond deepened, not built on rescue but on mutual healing. Pain didn't define them anymore. Survival didn't separate them. Hope connected them. The rusty pine bar still buzzes with music and laughter today, but its walls remember the night when cruelty turned into compassion, and a biker who once tore a waitress's shirt became the man who mended her heart. And for anyone sitting in the dark believing they are too damaged to heal, Lily and Mason's story whispers the truth. You are more than your scars. You are more than your worst moment. You are never beyond redemption. Sometimes the most broken people create the strongest miracles when